Great. Welcome everyone to our Social Gastronomy in Practice, where we dig deeper into social gastronomy models in our community to learn how the model works, challenges faced, as well as the learnings. So for today's Social Gastronomy in Practice, we have Ragam Foundation and based in Bali, and Nicholas is here to represent the foundation. Welcome, Nicholas.
Hello, thank you for having me today.
Thank you for joining us. To kick us off, Nicholas, tell us a little bit about yourself and what social gastronomy means to you.
Okay, well, so my name is Nicholas. I'm in Bali at the moment, and I was born and raised in Indonesia. Hang on. Sayang. Okay. So I was born and raised here. I've been here my whole life. While I was growing up here, I was always in the two worlds that existed, pretty much in every place that I lived, meaning the foreign kind of expatriate world and then the local life. My parents were, let me say, I'm very lucky to have had parents who made me aware of all of these things from a young age. And as I grew older, I always knew that I wanted to do something to give back to the country I call home. And I'm lucky enough to be able to do that now on the scale we're doing it. What social gastronomy means to me, at least the way I've been practicing it, is really the social part, is trying to get as many people involved with the project as possible, trying to educate and make people aware of the problems that exist, even on an island that people call paradise, and making them aware that no matter the circumstances you have yourself, there's always a way to give back. There's always a way to lend a helping hand. Don't have to think about the barriers because there aren't really any, depending on where you are, of course, but the barriers of helping are really only in your mind. And we're trying to be the bridge between the two worlds at the moment with our foundation to make it as easy as possible for people to give back and to just help. It's kind of the philosophy behind what we do, and also why I'm happy to be part of this community. So yeah, really the social part of course we cook really good food, but it's the social part that really struck with me. And it's also something that I know will make long-term impact. If we get more people involved, then we can do more things.
Amazing. And I love how you just mentioned your philosophy, the bridge between the people that need the help and the people that want to help. I think that's very amazing to know. So before we get into the actual model, I think it's important that we understand fully, why did you start the project? Why was it important that the Ragam Foundation comes into existence?
So before Ragam, I worked for a different charity organization that was really operating during the pandemic. We were cooking a lot of food. We're doing a lot of good stuff, but I quickly realized after working for them and also after collaborating with other charities that there was something missing. There was a demographic that lots of charities don't overlook on purpose because they're busy with their own thing, but it's the demographic of people who want to give. There's lots of people with good intentions, with good hearts, with great ideas, with motivation and inspiration, but they're often stopped, or they often don't continue because they have these questions in their mind, which is, how do I help? Who do I help? Where can I help? Why do I help? What is best to give? If I cannot provide funds, can I still help, right? These are often things that people ask themselves when it comes to charity work. And I realized it was something that was kind of lacking here. So the whole concept of Ragam, and Ragam means diversity in Indonesian, was to be diverse and celebrate that diversity through the people we help, the people who help us, and then the programs, actions, and initiatives we run in order to provide that impact. I don't like to say no when someone comes to me with an idea or with a concept or with anything that they want to give. So we're a very open doors, open heart kind of organization where you can donate anything from ingredients for us to use in the kitchen, to clothes, to toys, to anything between, even furniture. I've accepted microwaves and fridges and like big chairs and bedding and everything. because of the network of people that we support, we always make sure that it goes to the right place, but also it allows people to know that, oh, instead of throwing it away as garbage, I can give it and give someone else the opportunity to use something that they might not have or can benefit their lives. And also it creates kind of an open door for people to make their first steps into the charity space. So I really want it to be as comfortable and easy as possible to give back, with the hope that once you take those small little steps, once you have some of those questions answered that might have stopped you from doing things before, then it will just continue. And the amount of people I've met that have started with us and now are continuing either with our projects or have started their own projects has been, I would say, the highlight of doing this kind of work, and also kind of the reason why I'm doing it, right? Like I mentioned before, we're the bridge. I was the bridge growing up, and I just continue to do so now. Just trying to connect, trying to get some sort of balance back that should exist when it comes to places like this.
Amazing. I think it's very interesting about diversity, how you have diverse recipients, diverse donations. Is there anything in particular, perhaps a program or a donation that was a bit surprising to you, like something that you didn't think about when you started, but then because you have this sort of open door kind of policy, is there anything that came up and you're like, wow, I didn't know that this is something that we needed?
Not necessarily something that we needed, but we get clothing donations a lot. And well, we're on a beach paradise island, so sometimes we get a large amount of bikinis and go to the local communities and villages and be like, here you go, ladies and ibu, here are some new bikinis for you, because they will not wear them. So sometimes it's just a matter of the type of clothing is the one that I would say is the most challenging sometimes. We have some people who use this open doors policy just to get rid of junk. Unfortunately, that has happened as well. It doesn't happen as a lot, but I would say a few times it has happened, which has caused a little bit of a headache. Like, okay, now we have to, especially one time we got a whole bunch of like expired medical stuff. And I'm like, well, I can't use this and I have to dispose of it in a proper way. And again, the open doors policy, I'm still completely behind it. And it's not like people have abused it or anything. It's happened a few times and I've learned from it. So now when we promote again, like, hey, we're accepting donations, I always put a disclaimer like, accept medical goods, or if you do donate, it has to be non-expired. Otherwise, we will send it back or we'll give it back, right? So you learn from these kind of challenges. Other than that, no, we've had a few things that I cannot give to the communities. Like, people here don't use a microwave. It's just a high cost, big item that people don't use. You know, it's not really a Pop-Tart eating country. So for items like that, you always talk to the donor. Is it okay if we sell it and we just use the funds to then do what we can actually do, right? So little things, but nothing really too taxing or too challenging so far.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting, and it just brings about that importance of understanding what are the community needs, which is very important. So now we can go into the model. What is the model of the Ragam Foundation? What does it look like on a practical level, on a day-to-day basis? Could you break that down for us?
Sure. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, we've covered this. I'll do that later. Okay. I'll go straight to slide 6. Can you hear this volume? Like the sound of the video? Is that audible? No? I guess it doesn't really matter. It's just music. But this is kind of a little insight into how our day works. I thought I'd include it. It's a short little video. Does it work though? Like if it's moving?
So perhaps you could just walk us through what is happening in the video. Is
Sorry?
this something you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yes.
Okay. So this is
So
the
this is,
community kitchen, I would assume.
yes. So
Okay.
basically, this is um, one group of people that we've been targeting more in terms of trying to get them to come is local high schools here and just international schools, basically. So when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for me to do volunteer work. And I always kind of went out of my way to try and find places where I could help out. So one of the goals as well for Ragam is to create a space that uh, facilitates groups of kids from local high schools, primary schools, things like this, so they can give back from an early age and they can understand. Again, I know what it's like I've known kids that I grew up with who remained in this bubble their whole lives and they had no idea what was going on in the country and the place where they lived, right? Because they were always in a place of luxury. They were always never had to lift a finger for anything, always had food. I mean, I was the same, I'd never had any rough days growing up, but I was always aware that other people were. So this kitchen for me is a great space to introduce kids to this, and they can help cook, they can help do something that's also fun and new. But also afterwards, when they do the distributions to the kids, they get to realize that there's a whole other side to life. There's a whole other side to this island where they're growing up. There's a whole bunch of kids who don't have what they have. And I would say, I guess I'll go into now one of the most compelling stories that I have from these kids. So we had a group of kids coming, they were 8 years old. They joined our evening session for cooking. They still cooked in those massive woks you see in that video. They tried their best. It was entertaining. But afterwards we went to distribute. And for this distribution, it was during the evening, and we went to one of the trash picking communities that are here on the island. So we went there to hand out the food in the evening so that people can have access to just a meal for dinner, basically. But as we were doing the distributions, this boy realized that, oh, there's families here that are living in a room that's 2 by 3 meters. And he came up to me and he asked, is this room really where the whole family lives? And I'm like, yeah, that's the room for the whole family. And he just said, my room is bigger. My room is bigger than for all of them. But there was something in his eyes that just clicked, like some shift happened while he was just doing the distributions. And as we kept going and handing out the food, he handed it out to this one older lady who was so incredibly thankful and was eating straight away. And then he came back up to me and said, she's eating straight away. She really needs the food. I'm like, yeah, this is the situation that lots of people are in, even on an island like Bali, where, your life is of abundance and you have everything. There are people who are living day to day. There are people who are working today to earn today, to eat today, to feed their kids today. They can't afford to think about buying new shirts for their kids because it's all about getting food for themselves and their family now. And as I was explaining, he started to cry, and he was kind of shy about crying. But I also told him, don't feel bad about crying. It's a perfectly normal reaction. When I started doing this work, I was crying every night because I knew that there were still so many people that I didn't feed that day. So these kind of experiences, or let's say interactions with the kids that have been coming to our kitchen, is also really what keeps us going. And I know it's important because there's a huge expatriate community here, and it's a tourism destination, right? But so many of them are in bubbles. They don't know what's going on. But this island is only paradise because it's a daily struggle. It's fight for so many others. The people that help make this island paradise are the ones who are struggling every day. The trash collectors, they get like $2 to $3 a day. They work 10 to 12-hour days. And to put things into perspective, we give them a meal, right? It's a nutritionally balanced meal, great. But if they were to buy a meal using the plastic collected, because they get paid based on how much plastic they collect, right? They would have to collect 136 plastic bottles to be able to afford one meal. So if they wanted to feed their whole family for that day, they'd have to collect over 500 bottles just to get 4 meals. So whenever I explain this, especially to the older kids that you see in the video here, there's a shock reaction because they can't believe that this exists. And not just the kids, anyone I tell this to who isn't really aware, or I'm trying to introduce slowly to the realities that exist on this island. It's like, yeah, it's, again, it is paradise. And I enjoy it too. I mean, I'm right now sitting at home in my air-conditioned room and just had a nice hot shower, you know? But this is a luxury that so many people here don't have. And yeah, one of the main missions is, and I will say it again, is to bridge that gap, is to make that awareness, is to help people take those first little baby steps into charity work to hopefully inspire and make them realize, oh, I can actually do a lot more than I thought I was able to do. Like, oh, with just $5, you'd be surprised how many meals we can make at the kitchen, right? Simple things like this, or it's not necessarily just money, or my old clothes that I haven't, you know, it's been stored in my closet for years. I can give them to the kids that are wearing tattered shirts because their parents cannot afford clothing because they're focusing on just surviving for food and water. So it's these kind of things that, yeah, we try to address, and we try to, how do you say it? Do it in a way that I'm not trying to guilt trip anyone by saying any of this. It's not, you know, trying to make anyone feel bad. It's really just about making people aware and inspiring and hopefully motivating people to do just a little bit, because even just a little bit helps. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. Before I cut you from your presentation, so please go ahead and go
Oh,
ahead with
yeah.
your
I mean,
presentation.
lots of the stuff we already discussed in the few preliminary questions. So the presentation was around that. I guess
Okay.
I'll go into a little bit more detail about the kitchen operations. So we cook 5 days per week. Tuesday to Saturday, we do at least 2,000 meals per week. It depends really on requests and stuff like that. We're also usually the first boots on the ground when it comes to disaster relief. So Suwung, the trash mountain that is, or actually, oh no, there's no audio. Yeah, you guys can't hear the audio of the video that I'm playing. Oh, that's a shame. I have very emotionally charged video, but I guess I can't play that now. So I'll just try to paint a picture with words then. Bali has a massive landfill. This landfill is about 33 meters in height and is around 700 times 800 meters in like size. There's a community of around 1,000 people living around this mountain, and lots of them are kids, of course, and their entire livelihood depends on the amount of plastic they collect. This mountain last year in October was completely in fire, like was ablaze with toxic thick fumes, like just pluming off this mountain into the community. The government could not evacuate any of the people. There was no evacuation plans in place. So you can imagine living in a place where visibility is like 3 meters from your face due to the smog, and it's all toxic smoke. And this is where a community of 1,000 people were living. They were not getting any support, no food, no water supplies from at least government officials. So the day after the fires, we went there, we changed up our kitchen production basically, and we told the orphanages we support on a regular basis, telling them that unfortunately for the next few, well, hopefully, we didn't realize it was going to be a month, but for the next few weeks, we're going to be focusing on supporting this community, sending meals, around 1,000 meals there every day, water, fruit, and anything else. Don't know why I went down this tangent. I guess to kind of highlight that the whole point of this kitchen is to help the people who need it most. Disaster relief is something that we do, but on a normal day-to-day, we support childcare centers and orphanages and communities around the island. The reason why I chose childcare centers and orphanages is because I look at it this way. If I support a center that is already focused on providing education or healthcare or treatment for kids with food, That means that they don't have to use any of their budget or like donations to provide meals for the kids, and they can focus on their primary objective, which is healthcare or education. It is, how do you say, yeah, it's a much more significant impact than I realized before I started, because the cost of feeding, let's say, 80 kids on a daily basis is quite significant, not just financially, but also time. So by taking away that burden from these childcare centers and orphanages, they can then use the funding and the sponsors and the donations that they get to really focus on their main thing, which is, again, like I said, education or healthcare or treatment. So collectively, the impact you have on this kid's life is far greater than if I tried to start a school or if they try to continuously feed their kids. The meals are also nutritionally balanced to make sure that they develop mentally and physically as well. And the main reason I focus on food is because everything starts in the stomach. You can't educate a kid who's hungry. You can't empower a woman who's hungry. You can't hope to teach people about environmental practices if they're thinking about eating today, if they're thinking about feeding themselves today. You have to cover those base needs of food, water, shelter before you can actually move on to secondary and tertiary things to benefit their lives, right? If you don't cover that, you can't hope to really do anything. So we are here to help other organizations with that so they can focus on their main thing. Let us cover the food. We'll make sure that everyone's fed. You guys focus on the amazing work you're doing. And then together, hopefully, better impact made for the kids that we support and the people we support, basically. Yeah, that's kind of the whole premise and concept behind the kitchen and why I started it. Yeah. I'm gonna go back to this slide just because we do have other do. The kitchen is one. We have organic farms that we have set up in order to grow vegetables for our kitchens. Also to teach kids about, well, organic farming, composting, biogas systems to make them learn where the food comes from. Not just the kids from the international high schools, but from all the orphanages and childcare centers that we support. All of them come visit the kitchen, visit the garden, also involved with the program so they can actually be a part of the process instead of just waiting for the handout every day. We have water filter programs to give access to clean drinking water for families that doesn't use electricity. That's all just gravity based. We have some education programs, empowerment programs, and I already explained the whole open donation thing. And the reason why I have such variety is, again, to reflect the name Ragam, but also I wanted, not everyone might want to help in the kitchen because food doesn't necessarily speak to them. Maybe water is their main, like, personal passion or focus, so they can help with this program. So I created all these different avenues to also make it easy for people to give back in different ways and to create really kind of a dynamic community and organization that just acts as a platform and a base for goodwill that we then facilitate and turn into practice. That's kind of the concept of Ragam. It's also, I tend to say it's not my foundation. Yes, I started it. Yes, I'm kind of steering the ship, but that's not how I see it. It's a foundation that everyone can use in order to make their mark, to do something that they've been dreaming of, to start a program they've been thinking of, to explore ideas of how to give back, do something meaningful. We're here to help with that. And it's been going great. It's been a busy, really busy 2.5 years, but it's been, yeah, nothing short of amazing. Let's put it that way.
Great. Now I can imagine, Nicholas, that running these diverse programs comes with their own challenges. So what are some of the challenges that you've faced and are still facing?
Okay, so I made a nice little list of challenges. Well, the main one is the one I know that most NGOs face, which is just getting funding in and getting that consistent funding in. It's something that was more problematic when I first started, but as I grew, I quickly came to realize that if I worry about the money, it tends to not come. And I know that's maybe a strange way to think about it, but once I let go of that stress, donations seemed to just come, and people approached me, and I was more approachable because I didn't have this like stress in the back of my mind of like, oh, if I don't get funding soon, I'm gonna have to close in like this many months. Once I let go of that stress and kind of, well, and this might only be understood if you're in Bali, but in Bali, it's a place where you have to go with the flow. If you try and go against it, it really will eat you up. So once I let that go, it really became more clear. Of course, I'll have the additional or occasional headache or like moment of stress, but nothing like when I just started. The only difficult thing when it comes to the funding is allocation to programs. I'd love to be able to grow all of them at the same time, but some grow slower than others. But this has also been a learning experience for me. Some programs you cannot force into existence. You have to wait for the right time. Some ideas you cannot, you know, pull out of your mind and throw it at people and be like, this has to work. No, it takes time. And the right moment often presents itself. And then suddenly it is super easy to set up the thing that you were stressing about a few months ago because you met the right people. It was the right time. It was just everything falls into place. So patience is a really big thing that I've learned while doing this work, is not worrying about trying to do everything now or trying to get everything done now. Sometimes things aren't meant to be for the moment, and don't forget about it. I use the analogy, keep it on the back burner, keep it bubbling in the back, and eventually you'll be able to use it or you'll be able to implement it. Personally, and this is something I'm still struggling with, is just managing my own time and giving myself free time. I like to make the joke that my boss is an asshole, but I'm my own boss and doesn't give myself any free time, if that makes sense. So this is really, and excuse my language, I'm sorry, YouTube, but this is how I like to put it. That's been really the biggest and still ongoing challenge, is just giving myself some time off. There's a lot of ideas swimming up in here. There's lots of things I want to do, but giving myself a breather is needed. Getting better at it, but I would say this is still the biggest one. Then this is again more when I got started. It's a bit easier now, but I can imagine when organizations are just beginning, and I've helped a few other charity kitchens start. The biggest challenge when you just start a kitchen like this or a food organization, like handing out food, just let's say community organization or anything, is finding the right recipients and deciding who and where the food goes to. This is very, very important because you, not just for your own sake, but also you want to make sure that the food that you're handing out is giving the most impact possible. And then on the other side, you want to make sure that you can report where the food is going to potential donors and investors and sponsors. So you need to make sure that everything is tracked and can be followed back, right? I guess it falls down to data entry and making sure that you just keep track of everything. Also something I learned as I went is like, oh, I need to keep track of everything because it actually does help to land certain donations, certain sponsors, certain investors, if they can see like your track record, if they can see everything you've done. And it's very clearly laid out. It's very clearly like visible. It's not like, oh, where does your food go? Oh yeah, to people in need. No, it goes to this area, this area, this area. These are the people, these are their jobs. This is why they need it. This is something that I feel is important when it comes to this work. And I really make sure that it's clear when it comes to anyone who supports us, even as a volunteer, as a donor. They know exactly who, where, and what we're doing when it comes to. Then the last one, and this is again kind of a joke, but also kind of serious. Social media. I personally hate it. It does my head in. It took me 2 hours to create my first reel, and I almost destroyed my phone in the process. It was not a fun time. So I'm super happy to have interns now that just make reels like it's nothing. And it has helped us tremendously. We had a reel trending and we got so many followers. And through that, we got so many new contacts and people wanting to donate and this. So we are in an era of social media. So get yourself someone who can do it well. To also take the stress off yourself if you don't enjoy doing these things. But that would be my biggest advice. And also before, one of my biggest challenges was trying to do it all myself. Yeah. I'll I'll continue the challenges with one or the 5 words that have kept me going and that keeps it's kind of like our daily mantra that we live by here at Ragam. And it's useful words for anyone to really remember when it comes to anything that you're doing in life. Santai, which means relax. Always remember to relax. Always remember to, take it easy sometimes. Sabar, which means patience. Very, 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 very important is stay patient. Uh, don't, blow your fuse too quickly. Like I mentioned before, some things aren't meant to be at the time. Be patient and the right time will present itself. Semangat, which means stay spirited, stay positive, keep that fire burning inside because what you're doing is a good thing. If it feels right, it is right. You'll be surprised where you'll end up if you just keep going. Senyum, never forget to smile. So senyum means smile. And then finally, when all is done, when you've had a great day, always remember to be thankful, which is suksma. So these are the 5 S's. I've got them posted everywhere. It's on our shirts, it's on our banners. It's the words we live by and the words that keep me sane and keep me going as well.
Thank you for sharing the mantra with us. I'm definitely putting it down somewhere and just, remember it as things get a bit rough. But I think before we go to the last question, what have been some of your important learnings? I believe with challenges, we always have learnings. So what have been some
Oh,
of your most important learnings?
um, it's a good question. I would say what I've learned the most is I've learned more about myself. Um, of course, about the work, you learn it as you go, but I've learned a lot about myself through this work. Um, really figured out who I am. Like this is really what I meant to do. It feels completely right. Um, ugh, okay. So when it comes to this kind of work, I would say the most important things that you need to learn is managing your own expectations, managing what you want to achieve, and scaling according to what you can. This is also advice I've given to other charity kitchens that have set up here. It's don't scale for the sake of scaling. Don't uh, suddenly increase your production just because you feel like you can or you feel like you have to. Maybe you have more volunteers or maybe things are growing well and you get excited and say, oh, let's double our production. Scale accordingly, scale with thought, scale with sustainability in mind. Don't just increase for the sake of increasing, for the sake of posting bigger numbers, because that does not end well. You need to make sure that you balance your budget accordingly with how much you can produce. You need to make sure you balance the amount of food you're producing in accordance with where you're sending it to. You need to make sure that when you do decide to grow, you're growing with everything at the same time instead of just spiking up production and then not worrying about whether funding is going okay, whether where the food is going, because then you end up in a situation where, and this unfortunately happened to one of the places that I helped set up or that I, helped get their footing is they scaled too quickly. And now they've been closed since like April last year. They were doing well for a while, cooking for like a year and a half, but then they really got ahead of themselves. They got excited and I gave them the warnings. And I understand it's easy to get excited because I was the same. As soon as you get that feeling of like, oh, we can easily do like 1,000. Yes, as like your physical work, maybe, but you cannot do that consistently through funding, through your distributions. Everything has to be taken into account. You have to really think about every single part of the process, not just the cooking part, not just the making part. So that would be one of my biggest learnings, not just for the kitchen, but for every single program that I've set up is scale with sustainability and with the thought in mind that you're scaling to make sure that it's consistently able to continue at this new reached level. If you do scale up, make sure that you can continue at that level that you've scaled up to. instead of having to scale back down because it's like, oh no, I made a mistake and I cannot, you know. Better scale and stay at that level than scale and go, oh no, we made a mistake and then we have to cut back down. Because that's also kind of a demoralizing feeling for you, but also it kind of disrupts the way you're doing things, right? So that would be my biggest learning experience when it comes to this. And also due to the fact that we're managing so many different programs, it's, again, scaling with the resources in mind. For me, that biggest resource in mind is my time. I need to make sure that I still have time at the end of the day to, well, to watch Netflix or something, you know? But yeah, that would be my biggest advice that I can give to people who want to do this kind of work, and also the biggest learning experience that I've had whilst doing this work.
Amazing. That's great advice, and I know it will be very beneficial to someone here and out there as they'll listen to this recording. So the aim of our social gastronomy in practice sessions is that we unpack models in our community so that someone out there could replicate some of these models in their own local communities. So what advice would you give to someone that wants to replicate your social gastronomy model in their community? Like what would a step-by-step look like?
Well, the easiest thing to do is just start at your home. If it's all about giving meals to people who need it, you don't need a fancy setup or anything. When I started after I left the previous foundation I worked at, I wanted to continue and I just cooked at home. Don't be afraid of only doing like 10 meals. That doesn't matter. It's not about the numbers. It's about the intention. It's about the heart. It's about everything that's behind the meal. The people that you're giving the food to, yes, the food is important to them, but what's more important to them is that you actually know that they're there and that you're addressing a need of theirs, right? For lots of the people that I mentioned before, like the trash collectors, yes, they're grateful for the food, but they're more grateful for the fact that they realize that people know that they exist and that people care about them. So just by starting small scale at your house, inviting people that you know would want to join, and before you know it, you'll have a small community together who's just cooking and making nice meals. And again, once you've got that footing, once you've got that in place, then it's all about just slowly scaling up if that's what you want. But also don't feel pressured to do more if you don't want to, right? I know that some people might not have the time to be able to do this full time. They have other work or other responsibilities. So don't feel pressure to have to do more, because whatever you're going to be doing, if it's helping someone have access to a good meal, then that's already enough. That would be initial advice. When it comes to really getting more deeper into actually scaling, I would go back to try scale with sustainability in mind. And don't be afraid to put that idea out there. You'd be surprised what you get back if you actually talk to people about like, hey, I want to start feeding this community in the area that I know needs help, but I need funding or I need some equipment. Just approach people. Don't be afraid to send emails to restaurants or to organizations. Don't be afraid to ask the people you know, because you'd be surprised how positive the responses can be if you just ask. It kind of goes back to the whole, there's lots of people out there who have this good intention, who would want to do something, but they might not have the time or the energy or the idea to do it. So if you can be the one that kind of takes the lead and gives them an avenue to be able to give back, you'd be surprised how many people would join in and actually want to help you help others or join the effort, right? Yeah, I guess that's also been one of the surprising things for us is we've scaled quite quickly, and it's really just based on the fact that we're appealing to that part of people, like just come and help, and you'd be surprised how many people show up. Yeah, I hope that kind of answers it. I mean, I can go also into more detail like once you start to grow, but I feel like that was covered with the sustainability part. Like when you do start to scale, just keep in mind the resources that you have, right? Make sure that you always have everything in balance so that at no point does it feel like it's super stressful. And I feel that's also very important. That's also what I tell interns that come, volunteers that come, people I work with. My main, let's say a good day for me is if a day ends and everyone I've worked with, everyone we've helped, everyone that's been a part of whatever we're doing, ends the day with a smile, ends the day feeling happy. That's what social work should be all about. You shouldn't end the day going, well, that was an absolutely terrible day. I know sometimes these days can happen, right? And there will be harder days, there will be days that are difficult, but there should always be a general positive ending to the day so that the next day will continue, the next day will continue, and everyone was happy to be able to continue the work that they're doing, right? Sorry, 1 second. Ooh, if you're hearing laughter, that's my wife watching some sort of show, giggling uncontrollably. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, great. Those are great gems that you've just told us. And one of the things I was reflecting on was how with the Universal Plate campaign, we always say every plate counts. So
Yep.
that's just reinforcing the idea to start small. Don't worry about not having enough time or enough resources to help. Every plate counts, whether you're gonna give out 1, 2, 10 plates, like every plate counts. So thank you for that. We have come to the end of the first segment of our social gastronomy in practice. Thank you so much, Nicholas, for
Of course.
taking us through the model of the Ragam Foundation and just giving us so much information and advice that I know will be beneficial to someone out there that is looking to start their own journey around social gastronomy. So thank you for joining us today. We will now go into a Q&A session. If there's anything else that you would like to leave us with, Nicholas, you're free before we go to the next part.
Well, then I'll leave you with the last slide that I have, which is a quote that I also plaster everywhere. So I don't think I'll read it. I'll just let you read it.
Okay. So when we focus on what drives our souls, we attract those who feel the same.
Yes. So this is really the general philosophy again with you'd be surprised what you get back if you open up and actually start to talk and to take action in that social way. Also something that I reflect on often just to, how do you say? The amount of people I've met through this work has been incredible. The amount of people that have helped me in ways that I can't even put into words has been incredible. And I attribute that to the fact that you're on a path or you're doing something that just makes sense. People realize that and they just want to join. So if you're doing something that really feels like it makes sense to you and it just feels like the right thing to do, you'd be surprised how many people join in and feel this exactly the same way. That's
Absolutely.
the final little thing. Thank you so much.